Welcome into today's edition of Just the Truth from a very cold Des Moines, Iowa. Glad to have you join me in the PhD Weight Loss and Nutrition Studio. To lose weight for the last time, visit myphdweightloss.com. Record low temperatures in Iowa as caucuses are tonight. It's been all hands on deck with all the candidates making their last plea for support. President Donald Trump, who is expected to win tonight, made headlines when he told a protester to go home to mommy after he was interrupted during a rally in Indianola, or is it Indianola? Somewhere in Iowa. President Trump picked up some additional endorsements, too, over the weekend. I'll tell you about those. Vivek Ramsawamy also had some protesters and almost fell when he slipped on some ice while talking with reporters. And, man, it is slick out here with snowdrifts as tall as cars. The Hill, in an exclusive report published yesterday, says that Hunter Biden's trip to Capitol Hill this week is a shining bright light on how Hunter Biden's approach to the GOP investigations into his business dealings is totally independent of the White House. We shall see. You know those electronic signs that you often see on interstate highways? They're there to give you a heads up about traffic conditions ahead. Sometimes officials will get creative, throw in a little humor. Well, the Biden DOT says no more joking. And as Biden would say, I'm not joking about that. All the details. Today's episode is going to be a bit of an abbreviated version as I got into Des Moines later than expected. Baggage issues yesterday, and honestly, I have never experienced cold like this. But we'll have a full report of what takes place tonight on tomorrow's show. You can also hear our reports on the Mike Gallagher Show. Just go to MikeOnline.com or download the Salem News Channel app to watch our coverage.
I told you we'd be back.
And ye shall know the truth, and the truth shall make you free.
It's Joey Hudson.
I wanted to name it the Joey Hudson bill, but, they don't allow you to put names on bills. But I wanted to call it the Joey Hudson bill because I know that one's been near and dear to you for a number of years.
That's how it's done. Let your voice be heard.
And the truth shall set you free.
Here's Joey Hudson.
Of course, all eyes are on Iowa today, as tonight at 7 o'clock, Iowans will go to their caucus meetings and kick off the 2024 presidential nomination process. And what a way to start, as the state was slammed with a blizzard over this past weekend, reaching record low temperatures. And believe me, I experienced them yesterday upon arrival and today as I got into Des Moines. And all the campaigns are in full court press in these final 24 hours of campaigning. President Donald Trump, who's expected to win tonight, made headlines when he told a protester to go home to mommy. After he was interrupted during this rally, Trump, like the other Republican candidates, continued to make a last-ditch effort to gather support in Iowa ahead of tonight's caucuses. The former president made a stop in Indianola, and I think I'm pronouncing that right, Indianola. Maybe it's Indianola, Iowa, to give a speech at a rally where he was met by some protesters. One female protester could be heard shouting, "You take millions." Trump responded, "I would go home to mommy." He then addressed the crowd, telling them it was amazing because he used to get interrupted all the time, adding that he didn't think it had happened in about 2.5 to 3 years. He said, "That's different, and she's so young and immature." He was then interrupted again for nearly a minute with protesters shouting "climate criminal," but the supporters then started to drown out the protesters by chanting "USA, USA, USA," and that's Trump said that's why we have America over here now. Upon arriving in Iowa yesterday, President Trump made a stop by Casey's General Store in Waukee, Iowa, to pick up some pizzas. He was joined by North Dakota Governor Doug Burgum, who earlier yesterday threw his support behind the former president. The motorcade then went to Waukee Fire Department, where Trump handed out several boxes of pizzas to the fire crews there. Local reports last night showed Trump handing the boxes out, crew members taking them, and Trump standing there eating a slice while talking with the firefighters. In addition to Governor Doug Burgum's endorsement, Senator Marco Rubio threw his support behind President Donald Trump yesterday. Rubio announced his support of the former president in a post on X, saying that when Trump was in the White House, the senator was able to see success with policies he worked on for years because the U.S. had a president who did not cave to special interests or let bureaucrats block them. Rubio pointed to the expanded child tax credit, tougher sanctions on regimes in Cuba and Venezuela as policies he worked on that were successful when Donald Trump was president. Rubio said in his statement, "I support Trump because that kind of leadership is the only way we'll get extraordinary actions needed to fix the disaster Biden has created." He said it's time to get on with the work of beating Biden and saving America. With the Trump campaign, it's been a question of whether, not whether he'll win tonight, but by how much. Trump is confident that he's going to do, quote, very well in tonight's caucuses, he said. The former president isn't ready to make a prediction yet. There's some predicting that he could top 50%. As he left his hotel in downtown Des Moines yesterday morning en route to one of his rallies in nearby Indianola, Iowa, Trump was asked by Fox News' James Levinson on whether he would receive more than 50% of the vote. Trump answered saying, "I don't know. I think we're doing very well." He grabbed a 50% support or higher in a slew of polls over the past month in Iowa, as he stood at 48% in the final Des Moines Register Mediacom NBC News poll of likely Republican caucus goers, which was released over the weekend. His closest rivals, former ambassador to the UN and former South Carolina Governor Nikki Haley, with Florida Governor Ron DeSantis coming in third. Haley finished with 20%, with DeSantis at 16%. Of course, the closely watched and highly anticipated survey conducted by longtime pollster Ann Seltzer has a well-earned tradition of accuracy in the GOP presidential caucus in Iowa, and is considered by many as the gold standard in Iowa polling. Trump and his campaign have been attempting to downplay the high expectations that he's facing. Trump campaign senior advisor Chris LaCivita told Fox News Digital over the weekend, "No one has ever won the Iowa caucus by more than 12%. I think the public polls are a little rich." Former South Carolina Governor Nikki Haley issued a challenge to Trump following the release of the poll, showing her in second place and beating Florida Governor Ron DeSantis. Haley declared to Trump that, quote, "It's you and me now," she said. Haley was forced to cancel a campaign event in Dubuque, Iowa, after the blizzard conditions prevented her plane from leaving Des Moines. Her campaign says that she held a teletown hall event instead. The extreme weather is proving to be a major factor in the GOP contest here in Iowa, and I got to tell you, it is. I've never been this cold in my life. Voters will have to brave the temperatures tonight, and they'll be well below zero at 7 o'clock when the sun goes down, and it is expected to impact turnout a bit. Haley did pick up an endorsement of her own. Former Maryland Governor Larry Hogan says that he's going to be backing Nikki Haley for president. He's he's really considered a moderate Republican. He seriously considered a White House run of his own in 2022 after completing 2 terms of the blue state Maryland. He said that Haley is the strongest chance for the GOP to put forward the best possible standard bearer in November's presidential election. On Sunday, appearing on CNN's State of the Union, he said, "I've been saying since last spring when I made the decision not to run that I really didn't want to see a multi-car pileup," as he pointed to the once crowded and combustible, I guess you could say, field of Republican contenders. We've seen that gradually fade away to Trump, Nikki Haley, Governor Ron DeSantis. And by the way, Asa Hutchinson is still in the race, too. A lot of people forget that he's out there, but he has been campaigning in Iowa, but not expected to really compete. And, of course, Vivek Ramaswamy. Governor Hogan said, "So, yes, I think it's time for the party to get behind Nikki Haley. I believe Nikki Haley is the strongest chance for us to put forth our best possible candidate for November." Hogan recently stepped down from a leadership role in the centrist No Labels organization that's been seeking to find a third-party candidate to run on what they are calling the unity ticket Asked about his decision to step down from the No Labels leadership position, Hogan said, quote, "I'm focused on trying to nominate the strongest possible Republican, which is why I'm urging everyone to get behind Nikki Haley." One final thing while we're talking about Nikki Haley, she says that she isn't fazed by Senator Rand Paul's Never Nikki pledge and says that she was never looking to have the Kentucky Republican in her corner as the campaign trail to crucial states like Iowa, New Hampshire, and South Carolina heats up. He said, citing her attitude towards U.S. intervention overseas, Senator Paul said, "I don't think any informed or knowledgeable libertarian or conservative should support Nikki Haley." Haley responded to Paul's criticism, saying, "At the end of the day, we're going to keep talking to people about how we're going to get inflation down, how we're going to get our kids reading again, how we're going to secure the border once and for all, and how we're going to bring law and order back to our country, and how we're going to have an America that is strong," she said. The man who was once predicted to take second place, Florida Governor Ron DeSantis, predicted that he would, quote, "do well when Iowa Republicans vote tonight in their caucuses." DeSantis joined Fox News Sunday host Shannon Bream, arguing that he and his campaign have put in more work than any other candidate. Recent polls show DeSantis trailing in third place. Bream asked, "Do you need to finish second here in Iowa?" DeSantis responded, "We're going to do well. I appreciate being the underdog. I do better in those situations, and I think I have a record of doing well as the underdog. We're going to do well," he said, "and we look forward to doing so in the next contest." Now, you have to remember that last month in December, Governor DeSantis predicted that he would win Iowa. That, of course, has changed as his campaign has begun to lose ground. Now, there's no dispute that Ron DeSantis has had by far the best ground game in Iowa. He's had teams knocking on doors in all 99 counties in Iowa, but it doesn't appear that that's going to show up tonight in tonight's caucuses. Meanwhile, Vivek Ramaswamy told a crowd yesterday that his campaign is going to deliver a shock to the world when the results of the Iowa caucuses are tallied, he said. He has been traveling around Iowa as well to drum up support going into the caucuses, making a stop at Grimaldi's Pizza in Ankeny. He said, "I think we're seeing a late surge here. We're going to deliver a shock to the world Monday night with all of you helping us do that. The media has missed us the entire way, but that's okay," he said. Ramaswamy also said he's going to have a lot of fun proving the media wrong and doing what is right for the U.S. And like President Trump, during his speech, Ramaswamy was interrupted by several protesters yesterday. Ramaswamy told the men, "You're going to respect our norms. You're welcome to stay. We'll have a Q&A afterwards. If not, get the hell out of here," he said. He then said the men were sent to his event by super PACs, calling them super PAC puppets. He said, "And this is why we need to get the super PACs out of American politics. We're sick and tired of it. The other candidates are threatened." 864-477-JOEY, 864-477-5639. Your comments are welcome on the Furman Ford text line. You can leave me a quick message, and your emails are welcome, joey@joeyhudson.com. It's never been more important than ever to do business with locally run businesses, people who live in the community. And that's what you're going to find when you go to Furman Ford in Lawrence. If you're looking to buy a new vehicle, then you need to keep the money in the upstate and go and let Matthew Furman or Jim Furman help you with that new vehicle. Businesses like Furman Ford, when it comes to getting your next vehicle, choose Furman Ford in Lawrence. Their name is on the sign because their name is on the line. That means when you stop in, give them a call or shoot them an email or just stop in to take a look at a Ford. You're going to find a Furman family member right there at the dealership. Furman Ford. Find them online at furmanford.com, furmanford.com. So The Hill, in an exclusive report published yesterday, says that Hunter Biden's trip to Capitol Hill this week is shining a bright light on how Hunter Biden's approach to the GOP investigations into his foreign business dealings is independent of the White House. First, let me take a minute to tell you about PhD Weight Loss and Nutrition. I was telling a friend of mine yesterday who I hadn't seen in 30 years and lives here in Des Moines. I was able to catch up with him, and he's talking about that he had been sort of watching what he eats, that he wanted to lose a little weight. I quickly introduced him to PhD Weight Loss and Nutrition, told him all about my journey, how I'd lost 30 pounds over 3 years ago, and because of Dr. Ashley Lucas and her team at PhD Weight Loss and Nutrition, I've been able to maintain that weight loss as well. You will too. Make the call today, 864-252-4925. If getting healthy and losing weight was one of your New Year's resolutions, it's not too late to get started. 864-252-4925. Go ahead and get your first consultation scheduled. You can visit them online as well at myphdweightloss.com, the official partner of the Clemson Tigers. So President Biden's son, as you know, Hunter, made 2 surprise visits to Capitol Hill in the last month, showing that, or at least wanting people to think that he wants to defend himself in his own words. But he's not coordinating these with the White House, according to a report from the Hill. White House officials say they didn't know that Hunter was going to make an appearance this past Wednesday in a hearing of the House Oversight and Accountability Committee, while members weighed whether to hold him in contempt of Congress for defying a subpoena that they issued last month. A source familiar with the situation told the Hill that no one at the White House was notified or advised that Hunter was going to show up. According to the Hill, sources say that it's not surprising that White House officials wouldn't have known in advance, and described that while the President and First Lady have a close and transparent relationship with Hunter, that he does not seek their advice and does not seek the advice of the White House staff. A Democrat close to the White House described Hunter Biden's opinion of the public relations people around his father as, quote, very low. The source that wants to remain anonymous said, you can blame Hunter for not taking communications advice from this group. He says that Biden's press team has been in place while the president's approval rating and public opinion has him consistently dropping every month. So why would Hunter want to take their advice, the source said. His lawyer, Abe Lowell, shared the decision in a letter to Oversight Committee Chair James Comer and Judiciary Committee Chair Jim Jordan, the 2 Republicans who've led the investigation into the Biden family. In the letter, Lowell floated a, quote, public deposition hearing with alternating rounds of questions for Republicans and Democrats and with similar rules as is done in a closed-door deposition. Comer and Jordan said in response that they plan to move forward with holding Hunter Biden in contempt of Congress. A former White House staffer offered a different description of the split between Hunter's team and the president's team, arguing that the White House advising him would be weird. They said, I didn't get the sense that there was a rift, but our whole message was he's a private citizen, so it would have been slightly weird if the White House was advising him closely, according to the source. Democrats on the Oversight Committee, including ranking member Jamie Raskin, said that they were not informed beforehand of Biden's plans to sit in on the meeting either. But a number of those lawmakers were praising his visit, saying that it was an effective strategy for undercutting the Republicans' arguments that he's unwilling to cooperate with their investigations. I don't think showing up unexpected and going to the front of the room only to sit there for, what was it, like 17 minutes before he left, I don't think that's showing that you're cooperating, is it? White House Press Secretary Karine Jean-Pierre wouldn't say last week whether the president was informed that his son would be making his surprise visit to Capitol Hill. She said back in December that the president was familiar with what his son planned to say when he spoke to the press outside of the Capitol Hill on the steps that time. Another former administration communications staffer described Hunter Biden's team and the White House team as wholly separate. He said the press office was as separate as it could be. when pressed on whether it was frustrating for press aides to not have a say of what Hunter Biden did, the source added, "It's just the way it was because that's how the president and his team operates with appropriate firewalls." Firewalls, yeah, sure. We all believe that that Biden operates with firewalls. On the Furman Ford text line, Tony says, "Joey, maybe we should start a website called Nikki Haley, the nonconservativequitter.com." Tony's not a big fan of Nikki Haley, by the way. Christy writes on the Furman Ford text line, "It's funny. Last week, Duke Energy sent out texts and emails about how the power grid would be maxed out and we needed to conserve power from 6 a.m. to 9 a.m. I didn't get that. Interesting, though. She goes on to say, if the power grid can't handle a storm system for a few hours, how is it supposed to be maintained when all these EVs are plugged in? When everything is running on electricity and gas engines are a thing of the past, they'll have us. Power can be turned off with ease. It's all control measures for the population," she says. "How will food be delivered? This nation is headed to communism on a fast pace. Wake up, folks. America is on life support. Electric life support." That's a scary thought. "And this criminal government would love nothing more than to pull the plug on it." Thank you for your comments, Christy. Albert in Lincolnton, Georgia says, "Great podcast. In traveling, I've found that most of the EV charging stations are at hotels, charge while you sleep stations." Both of these comments are in response to some comments that we talked about on an episode last week on electric vehicles. If you missed it, go back and just listen to some of last week's editions of Just the Truth. Ace writes on the Furman Ford text line, "Politics has become like a kid's playground. It's really sad hearing all of these adults acting like children. They might as well be telling your mama is so fat jokes." He says, "That's how pathetic they become. We all need to be praying for this country." I agree with you there, Ace. Pray for politicians' salvation, maturity, strength, and selflessness. They all need this desperately. Have a safe and tremendous week, Joey. We all love you. Well, thank you, Ace. I love you guys, too. Katrina writes, "Bundle up, Joey. Iowa in January is too cold for us Southerners." You're right there, Katrina. "Excited to hear you broadcast from the caucus. It sounds like way more fun than primary day. For once, I agree with Mr. Krispy Kreme." Chris Krispy Kreme. That's a good little play on words there, Katrina. "Nikki will get smoked, and I don't think he was caught on a hot mic. I think he wanted to drop a bomb and walk away. He is a bitter guy 24/7. Safe travels, Joey. Take electric socks." I need those for sure. Dom in Illinois writes on the Furman Ford text line, "I grew up and was a police officer in northern Minnesota, about 50 miles from the Canadian border. I was a police officer in the early 70s when we would walk the beat. As a new officer, I spent many nights, all night, walking the beat in 30 to 40 below zero weather. They don't do that anymore, but I made it, and you will too. If you're going out, bundle up and dress in layers, kind of like Ralphie on the Christmas Story. Sorry to take up so much of your time. Not much to do in this weather, Dom." Hey, Dom, your texts are welcome, and I appreciate your suggestions there. Yes, I am dressing in layers. Our text of encouragement today: once you choose hope, anything is possible. God bless, and that is true. Your texts are welcome as well on the Furman Ford text line, 864-477-JOEY, 864-477-5639. Leave a quick voice message or email me, joey@joeyhudson.com. You know those electric signs that you often see on interstate highways? They're there to give you a heads up about traffic conditions ahead. Sometimes officials will get a little creative and throw in a little humor. Well, the Biden DOT says no more joking. No more joking, they say. Portions of today's show brought to you by Discounted Appliance Warehouse. Are you tired of buying appliances from inexperienced sales staff who have no appliance knowledge? Well, you need to do like I do and head over to Pickens to pick up that next refrigerator or dishwasher or washer and dryer or whatever it is you need. You're not going to go wrong when you shop with my buddies Jeff and Johnny and the team at Discounted Appliance Warehouse. They have an A+ Better Business Bureau rating, nearly perfect reviews on Google, and the team at Discounted Appliance Warehouse. They have the knowledge you need to have the confidence in your purchase. They'll show you around the warehouse. It's about 11,000 square feet at any given time, having 1,500 or more appliances waiting just for you. Find them online at dawpickens.com. It's no joke. Humorous and quirky messages on electronic signs will soon disappear from highways and freeways across the country. Why? Because the U.S. Federal Highway Administration has given states 2 years to implement all the changes outlined in its new 1,100-page manual just released by the Biden DOT, including rules that spells out how signs and other traffic control devices are regulated. Now, this, Donald Trump was the master at getting rid of government regulations, cutting through the red tape. This is a prime example of what we get when we have Democrats in these types of positions. Administration officials with the Biden administration said that overhead electronic signs with obscure meanings, references to pop culture, or those intended to be funny will be banned in 2026 because they can be misunderstood or distracting to drivers. This has got to be the most absurd thing I've ever heard. They don't want us to have a little humor. The agency, which is part of the U.S. Department of Transportation, says that signs should be simple, direct, brief, legible, and clear, and only be used for important information such as warning drivers of crashes ahead, adverse weather conditions, traffic delays. Seatbelt reminders and warnings about the dangers of speeding or driving impaired are also allowed according to the new 1,100-page regulation. Among those that will be disappearing are messages like use your blinker in Massachusetts, visiting in-laws, slow down, get there late, which is something you might see in Ohio, don't drive star-spangled hammered from Pennsylvania, hocus pocus, drive with focus from New Jersey, and hands on the wheel, not your mill from Arizona. These are some of the messages that you might hear in some of these states. According to the report, Arizona has more than 300 electronic signs above its highways, and for the past 7 years, the State Department of Transportation has held a contest to find the funniest and most creative messages. Anyone can submit ideas, drawings. More than 3,700 entries were sent in last year alone. The winners were seatbelts always pass a vibe check, and I'm just a sign asking drivers to use turn signals. State Representative David Cook, a Republican from Globe, Arizona, said the humor part of it we kind of like. I think in Arizona the majority of us do. It's not all of us. He said he didn't understand what all the fuss is about. Why are you trying to have the federal government come in and tell us what we can do in our own state, he says. Prime example that the federal government is not focusing on what they need to be focusing on, and he has a point there. What do you think? Should the Department of Transportation be telling states what to put on their signs? 864-477-JOEY. Furman Ford text line. Love to get your comments. That's it for today's edition of Just the Truth from a very, very cold Des Moines, Iowa. Thanks for joining me in the PhD Weight Loss and Nutrition Studio. To lose weight for the last time, visit myphdweightloss.com. Hey, if you haven't joined our mailing list yet, visit my website, joeyhudson.com. Click on the Connect with Joey button so that you can receive our emails with the most up-to-date news. Thanks for spending a few minutes of your day. We're back tomorrow with full reports on what happens at tonight's Iowa caucus. Comments are welcome on the Furman Ford text line, 864-477-5639. Remember, folks, God's got this. He's still in control.